Sometimes the universe decides to troll the whole human race and create something that simply cannot be explained, as if to remind us that we're not really in charge, that all our precious science and logic aren't enough to explain it all. Homo sapiens is confronted with something so baffling, the only resource is to shrug and say, well, I guess it's a mystery. Some such mysteries are perfect storms of circumstances just right to create an end result that both fascinates and bamboozles. Others just seem like a steaming pile of nonsense that makes no sense whatsoever. However they came about, such unsolved conundrums seem tailor-made to twist mankind's collective melon and force anyone desperate for answers to concoct ever more bizarre theories. So, with all that in mind, I'm Will for What Culture, and here are 10 mysteries that apparently exist solely to mess with you. 10. The Tamam Should case. In the long, regrettable, and storied history of weird deaths, the Tamam Should case holds a special place as something that seems to have been written for a particularly quirky, blackly humorous murder mystery. Except this one doesn't have an ending, and it's real. On the 1st of December 1948, a man's body was found on a beach near Adelaide in Australia, and that's about the only thing that's certain about any of this. He had no ID or even labels in his clothing. The only clue was a scrap of paper bearing the words Tamam Should, the end line from a 12th century Persian poem called the Rubaiyat. This rare book was later found in a local taxicab. It may have had a secret code written on it, but no one has ever translated it. Tamam Should means the end. No one ever worked out who the guy was, how he died, or what he was doing there. It's possible he was a Cold War spy traveling deliberately incognito, but that just makes things weirder. 9. The Valor Incident. On September 22nd, 1979, the US satellite Valor 6911 noticed an unusual bright double flash off the coast of South Africa in the confluence of the South Atlantic and Indian Ocean. To this day, no one has ever confirmed what the flash was, but whatever caused it, it was big. The flash was accompanied by seismographic and atmospheric readings that suggested something huge kicked off. Theories include an underwater earthquake, a freak weather event, or a meteor strike. The scientific consensus has focused on one possibility, however. It was probably a nuclear bomb. If it was a nuke being tested, there are likely two culprits: Israel and South Africa. These two had their own nuclear weapon programs, and if they did set one off in 1979, they breached every nuclear non-proliferation treaty in effect and got away with it. The very real possibility exists that someone detonated a nuke in secret and no one ever found out who. Why would they do it, and who knew, are the real questions at the heart of this mystery. And if it wasn't somebody sneakily joining the nuclear club, then what the hell was it? 8. Time Traveler Photographs. A category of so-called time traveler photographs exists, seemingly to discombobulate mankind's collective sense of reality, and new ones seem to turn up all the time. These photographs depict people using modern technology or dress in a time period where such things shouldn't exist. The best known one of these is one of a hipster-looking dude in shades, hoodie and t-shirt at the opening of a bridge in 1941. When presumably bridge openings were where all the cool kids hung out. Another one is footage from the premiere of a Charlie Chaplin movie called The Circus, which allegedly shows a woman using a mobile phone in 1928. These photographs all have rational explanations. Sunglasses existed in 1941, the Chaplin thing is probably a form of hearing aid, and these rational explanations are always cheerfully trotted out by buzzkills everywhere. But the combination of events that created such strange photographic anomalies continue to fuel the imaginations of time travel fanatics everywhere. 7. Tunguska Explosion. If a tree falls down in a forest and no one is there to hear it, does it make a sound? What about 80 million trees? If 80 million trees fall down, yes, they probably do make a sound. That many trees were flattened when something gargantuan exploded over Siberia near the Tunguska River on June 30th, 1908. An area over 800 square miles was wiped out, and yet it happened in a place so remote, no one was there. It would have been difficult to pick a place on Earth where witnesses were less likely. The probable explanation is that something really big hit Earth from space, probably an asteroid or a comet, but the fact that no one is sure makes it an irresistible irresistible magnet for speculation. Maybe it was aliens, maybe it was a stray nuclear test, or Nikola Tesla's misfiring death ray. Sure, it could have been any of those things, but no one knows, and that's what makes it so interesting. 6. Majestic 12 document. The Majestic 12 document is a rare example of a mystery that really was probably deliberately created to mess with people. Specifically created to mess with UFO enthusiasts to keep them chasing non-existent conspiracies instead of looking into real US government projects. The document was sent anonymously to a UFO enthusiast in 1981 and described Operation Majestic 12, a project that covered up the US involvement with aliens. Truman was alleged to have created a Council of 12 in response to the Roswell crash in 1947 to discuss how to exploit alien technological goodies and engage with extraterrestrials. The MJ-12 document was so perfect a smoking gun for UFOologists that it immediately became part of the UFO canon, and further documents have emerged supporting the Council's existence. The Majestic 12 documents are almost certainly fake, but where they came from is less certain. The most tantalizing theory is that the US military, probably the Air Force, created them to get UFO fanatics to waste their time instead of running the risk of accidentally revealing real state secrets. Wherever the documents came from, they have caused UFO fans to divide over their authenticity, which, in all honesty, probably suits the US military just fine. 5. The Thevoynich Manuscript. Of all the various weird and inexplicable artifacts that have surfaced over the years, none is more likely to be a full-on historical trolling than the fabled Thevoynich Manuscript. This 240-page-long solid slab of insanity surfaced in 1912 and is named after the Polish book dealer who claimed to have found it. The manuscript is written in an unknown language, with even the alphabet being used completely unprecedented, and after that it just gets weirder. Going by the illustrations, the manuscript is a work of natural history detailing plants and cosmology, except none of the plants or constellations can be identified. The other illustrations are of sketchy naked women who don't seem to have anything to do with anything. The paper itself is from the 15th century, and the ink is probably about that old too. Where the book came from, who wrote it, and why are completely unknown. It might be a heavily encoded work on alchemy, or perhaps it was just a deliberately nonsensical hoax designed to baffle scholars who tried to decipher it in the future. If that is the case, it succeeded. 4. Lead masks case. On the 20th of August 1966, the bodies of Brazilian electronic technicians Manuel Pereira de Cuz and Miguel Jose Viana, I hope I mispronounced those names correctly, were found on a hill near Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. Everything we know about why they were there, how they died, and what they were doing is unknown, except that it was something really weird. They were wearing lead masks, apparently to protect their eyes from something, wore formal suits, and one of them had a note saying 4:30, be at the specified location, 6:30, ingest capsules. After the effect, protect metals, await signal mask. Interviews with the local electrical engineers who knew the men suggested they were some form of scientific spiritualists trying to contact somebody off-world. The masks were made by one of the men in his home, and while they were speculated to protect from radiation, it's much more likely they were to protect the men's eyes from an unexpected, extreme light source. It's possible the men died of an overdose of psychoactive drugs while trying to contact their benevolent space brethren. And the fact that that is the most mundane explanation for the lead masks case indicates just how bizarre the entire thing is. 3. The Bagong Pipes. The Bagong Pipes are a set of metal pipes embedded in the rock formations in Tibet. If someone built them, as is often alleged, they would have to be over 150,000 years old. That is, they can't possibly be human in origin, with all the extraordinary possibilities that suggests. The pipes are an example of an out-of-place artifact, a category that includes anything turning up in a context it can't possibly exist, according to science. If the pipes were made by intelligent beings, history and science would have to be completely rewritten to include pre-human civilization or alien architects who showed up and built them for some baffling reason. Fossilized tree roots, natural iron-rich deposits, or natural rock formations have all been put forward as non-insane explanations for the Bagong Pipes. But this hasn't stopped the collective salivation of the world's believers kicking into full drool mode when presented with the possibility that aliens were laying plumbing in China before mankind existed. 2. The disappearance of Flight 19. The number of lost ships and aircraft in the region known as the Bermuda Triangle can be explained, statistically, by the fact that it's one of the busiest shipping areas in the world. The disappearance of Flight 19, however, seems to have occurred solely to convince the world the Bermuda Triangle is really a thing. On the 5th of December 1945, a squadron of Avenger torpedo bombers was flying a training mission out of Fort Lauderdale in Florida, and promptly vanished. All 14 airmen were lost, and no trace of the flight has ever been recovered. The last transmissions from the flight suggest they got lost, with the lead flight's compass being out and no clocks to help navigate via the sun. It's possible they ran out of fuel and had to ditch far from shore. The fact that the disappearance happened over the Bermuda Triangle, involved well-trained Navy pilots, and was never resolved makes it a perfect entry into the canon of unexplained, spooky mysteriousness. If someone decided to invent an incident that made the Bermuda Triangle seem real, they couldn't do much better than Flight 19. 1. The Vanishing of the Blutfahner. Nothing gets mystery fans tinglier than a conundrum involving the Nazis. The gruesome romance of history's most ostentatiously evil regime fascinates even today, especially when there's something unexplained. When it involves an object the Nazis considered a sacred artifact, all the better. The Blutfahner, or the Blood Flag, was a Nazi flag soaked with blood during the violent coup the Nazis attempted in 1923. It became a symbol of martyrdom for the Nazis, and its staff was inscribed with the names of the 16 men who died during the coup. The flag was flown at Nazi rallies and official events, and was revered as a sacred symbol when it was touched to other Nazi flags to sanctify them. And then the damn thing disappeared. It was last seen on the 18th of October 1944. Nobody knows who had it at the end of the war or where it went. It might be buried in the ruins of Berlin or stashed in the attic of a Soviet soldier who pinched it. It might even be flying over the Nazis' secret moon base. The truth is, no one knows. And there you have the facts, 10 mysteries that apparently exist solely to mess with you. Feel free to drop this video a like if you enjoyed it, and drop me a follow on Twitter at @uslydowyu. I'm Will for What Culture, thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you next time.